Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears get on a plane to Vegas to face off with Geno Smith and the Raiders. Both of these teams are 1-2 on the season, and for all intents and purposes, a must-win game. Cannot fall to 1-3 on the season for either of these teams. Let's start with Vegas because they had a beyond disappointing performance against Washington. If all you did was look at the stat sheet, you would say, hey, Geno Smith had a pretty good day. Everything considered, about all of that production came in just about garbage time. The fact of the matter is they got dominated up front, and we're not going to count 2 touchdowns at the end of that thing. That offensive line for the Raiders was purely pushed around. They could not get Ashton Jeanty going. I'm looking at that game and I'm seeing no holes. He had 2 good runs on the day when he had holes to work with, and he lowers the shoulder, barrels guys over. And if I'm looking at this matchup against the Chicago Bears, if I'm a Raider fan, I'm getting a little bit excited because the Bears have not been good against the run. Even though they played a good game against the Dallas Cowboys this past week, they still gave up 6 yards a carry. In Chicago, they had 2 sacks against the Cowboys. So as much as that may have looked like a dominating performance, not so much the case when we look at how the Cowboys moved the ball on the ground. For the Washington Commanders in that game against Vegas, it was the special teams. The game could not have started worse. Deebo Samuel with an explosive return. Later on, Jalen Lane with a punt return for a touchdown. The Raiders had a number of things go wrong for them, and it seemed like Geno Smith was running for his life. He got sacked 5 times on the day. What can you expect from your veteran quarterback? He is elusive. He can get outside the pocket, extend plays. I'm expecting him to do that a little bit more. The Bears have injury concerns in the secondary. There is no Jalen Johnson. Kyler Gordon, his status is still not known. TJ Edwards, don't even know if he'll be out there for the Bears. Nahshon Wright, if you're a Bears fan, he was playing a lot of off coverage and getting beaten consistently on the day against Dallas. Now, the positives for Chicago against that Las Vegas Raiders team. Let's talk about Caleb Williams because you have to give the kid a tip of your cap. 142 rating on the day against the Dallas Cowboys. Unbelievable performance. He went out there, balled out, 4 passing touchdowns. Makes you remember that game against Jaguars he had last season in London. He outdid this one because he didn't have the bad turnover, the bad mistake. Frankly, he didn't have one ball that was close to being intercepted. If you're also a Bears fan, Luther Burden, the rookie. Everyone's been waiting for him to have his impact, and Caleb Williams has one of the best throws you'll see. 65 air yards, the flea flicker, perfectly thrown to Burden. He'd said he'd been underthrowing it all week, but he told Luther, I won't be underthrowing you in the game. Trust me, run full speed. They did. They connected. That gets you excited. Colston Loveland, his status for this game. He didn't return in the second half or even in that second quarter after he had a nice catch for Chicago. He had that hip injury. How much of an effective player will he be against Las Vegas? That is unknown. On the Vegas defensive side of the football, you're going up against a Chicago Bears team that has had offensive line question marks. They had a much better performance against the Dallas Cowboys, giving up no sacks. But frankly, the Dallas Cowboys have arguably the worst defense in football. Maxx Crosby is going to be a massive advantage for Vegas every single play. If you're Chicago, they need to double him. Having a guy like Loveland in this game would be huge because you can run out 12 personnel. You can make sure Cole Kmet is to that side every time, that you are allocating resources, putting guys in front of Maxx Crosby so he does not disrupt this game. Chicago has not run the ball well. They didn't run it well against Minnesota. They didn't do it well against Detroit, and they didn't do it well against the Dallas Cowboys. 3 yards a carry, 87 yards total, 29 carries on the day. The only production seemingly on the ground from DeAndre Swift has come in small bits and chunks. Kyle Monangai driven back a little bit. when they were looking to take the lead and go ahead by 17. They go for it on 4th and goal, get the touchdown to DJ Moore. This offensive unit, and they're looking to establish the run and Ben Johnson's identity. Haven't seen it yet. And going against the Raiders, it doesn't feel like this will be the game where they do it unless you have the positive sentiment. If you want to compare a Washington offensive line that struggled mightily against Green Bay with a nice bounce back. They had over 200 rushing yards against the Raiders last week, over 6 yards a carry. If you're Chicago, can you commit to that identity, wanting to run the football over 30 times in this game? I want to see some Caleb Williams. Design quarterback runs. He's so good with his legs, a lot more athletic than people give him credit for, and he can turn that corner on you the same way that I want to see Geno Smith go out there and get a couple of design quarterback runs. Marcus Mariota decimated the Vegas Raiders a number of times. 6 carries, 40 yards, the touchdown to start off the game. This Raider team has to start faster. They had a nice performance against the Chargers. They kept themselves in it throughout the entire day. They limited the big play for the most part, besides a beautiful dime ball from Justin Herbert to Quentin Johnston in that game. But they kept themselves alive. They kept themselves in it. They were able to defend the run very well. They got a strip from Amarion Hampton, the running back, in that 4th quarter, staying alive, but it was Geno Smith and this offensive line not being able to give him time to throw the football. Brock Bowers, Jack Best, Deontay Thornton, Trey Tucker, Myers. There are weapons on this Raiders team. If you haven't watched them play, the first thing you'll notice is maybe offensive line, but speed. They are fast. They have weapons. Thornton's 6'5", but him and Calvin Johnson, the only players that are 6'5" or taller to run 40s in the 4.35 or lower. Thornton ran a 4.29. The deep ball. Can we give him a little bit of max protection and look for a one-on-one? It'll be Stevenson in coverage, probably Nishan Wright. When you have a one-on-one, I want to see the Raiders take it against that Chicago secondary that, frankly, right now, is playing with more confidence after last week. They had the fumble, the takeaway from Tyreek Stevenson, the 2 interceptions from Tremaine Edmonds, the pick at the end of the game from Byard, but you don't really count that. The game was pretty much over at that point. Prescott was out of the game. But the Chicago secondary is playing with more confidence now because they got a little push up front. Huge turning point in that game against the Cowboys. And what could be a huge factor in this one, much like it was for the Raiders against Washington, was 10-point game, Bears up. Cowboys opening possession the second half, 2nd and 5. They get a sack on Dak. They force the punt, go 19 plays, touchdown, 17-point lead. The game's all but over. The Commanders against the Raiders, and that one, they got pressure on Geno. They're up 20-10 at the half. They give up the long field goal at the end of the half. Can't do that. Washington gets the ball with, 28 seconds. They give up the 56-yarder to Matt Gay. A lot of positives for both of these teams to talk about. When it is all said and done, though, we have to give credit where it is due to these coaches. The matchup of Chip Kelly, offensive coordinator for the Raiders, going against Dennis Allen's defense. My question to start it off is, how committed to Ashton Jeanty will Chip Kelly be? He was pretty dang committed to running the football against Michigan last year. That last game of the season for the Buckeyes, kept wanting to run the ball in the middle. Will he do the same thing against the Chicago Bears? Dennis Allen, how comfortable are you rushing 4, or do you want to manufacture pressure by rushing 5, by rushing 6 to get pressure on Geno Smith? If I'm him, I'm sending guys to the right side of that offensive line, flushing Geno Smith out of the pocket to his left side where he is far less comfortable throwing. Didn't have a ton of success against Washington in that game, rolling to his right side, but that is clearly where he is far more comfortable. Caleb Williams, he hits on the big plays. He has shown that he has as good arm talent as anybody in the league, rivaling a Josh Allen, rivaling a Justin Herbert or a Mahomes, but it's the consistency. It's the one hoppers to Odunze when he's open on rollouts to the right side, to Zacchaeus when he's open for a screen and throwing the football too low. You see the highs and you see the lows. There's way too many of the plays we're seeing where it's riding the roller coaster. Can we see him be consistent and be a flatline type guy in rhythm throwing the football? 7 touchdowns, 1 interception on the season so far for Caleb. If you go back, his last 17 games, Caleb has thrown 25 touchdown passes to 3 interceptions. No, that is not something you can fact check and you will be like, no, that's just it. 25 touchdowns, 3 picks, look it up. But the record is 5-12. That's why not a lot of people are giving this guy the credit that he should be due based off the way that he has controlled a lot of these games, not turn the ball over. My knock so far would be, hey, let's open this thing up a lot like you did against the Dallas Cowboys last week. Throw that interception. Be aggressive. There have been openings. That Minnesota game, Troy Aikman was pointing it out. There were opportunities to let it loose, throw the football, but he was a little bit gun shy in that one. Throw the pick. Come back and learn from it. Make the mistake, learn from it, and you will be a better guy moving forward here. And the trajectory of his improvement will be a little bit more accelerated. He does not look like a guy that will be a Jay Cutler, a Mitchell Trubisky, just throwing tons and tons and tons of interceptions. This is a great matchup between these two teams. A lot of talent on the outside, good weapons. I would give the edge at running back to the Raiders and Ashton Jeanty. This guy has been waiting. He's been close to breaking one. We've seen it. At Boise State, he did it so often and consistently. I don't want to hear all the talk that he was playing against non-FBS opponents there in the Mountain West. We saw what he did against Oregon in the regular season, against Penn State in the college football playoff. He's waiting to break one. I think that he can in this game against Chicago. That has shown that they have some holes up front. Grady Jarrett, Gervon Dexter, Montez Sweat, Odunze. I'm looking at all of you, Jaquan Brisker and Byard, filling in those gaps, not to make 6 players on that defense. All of these guys need to come down and wrap up gang tackle. It will not just be one guy making tackles on Ashton Jeanty most of the time. The fundamental teaching point is wrapping and swarming Jeanty. As far as a prediction goes for this game, I've got confidence that the Chicago Bears will get to 2 straight wins, get to 2-2 on the season before they see the bye. A 27-20 win on the road at Allegiant Stadium. I think that there's a bit of something special here brewing between Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. Are you going to give them all their flowers on a good performance against the Cowboys defense? No, but they are heading in the right direction. You saw flashes against Minnesota, a little bit more in Detroit. That was a defensive, just terrible performance. And the Raiders, I just don't know if I truly believe that they're going to play very well defensively, get the pressure on Caleb that they need in order to force him to turn the football over. How do you utilize Devin White, the freak athlete, getting him to blitz Caleb Williams, keeping him as a spy, making sure that he's not able to use the legs and pick up first downs? I've got a little bit more faith right now in this Bears offense heading in the right direction. The Raiders looked a lot like they did in week 2, which is a lot like they did in week 1. This team has been about here, whereas Chicago, it's seemingly taking a jump here, jump here, jump here. It seems like they're on that Stairmaster, running up a little bit. Sometimes they come back down, but if they get off the Stairmaster and get on an actual just pair of stairs getting up that thing, this thing looks like it could be headed in the right direction. 27-20 Bears. Let me know down below in the comments who you think wins this football game. The Bears are slight favorites as of the recording of this. Raiders, let me know why you think that they might win this game down below. I appreciate you so much for watching Blitz with Blinder. We make NFL college football content every single day, so please subscribe for more of that. It's coming out very soon here. I will see you next time. I appreciate you so much.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blunder. Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Blunder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa.